Well, listening to Dave Sweetmore, and it is a real honour now to say I'm joined by the actual queen of rock and roll, the one and only Suzi Quatro. Suzi, how you doing?
I'm doing fantastic. I'm just so happy with the way everything's going, obviously.
You know what? We're going to talk about that now. Everything's going so well so far. You've got an amazing album out we're going to talk about now. You're looking well. You're doing great. How's life generally?
I'm working a lot. I'm pulling in reviews from my live shows that I haven't had my entire career. And at 73, that is a bonus.
I'm going to talk about your new album, but I want to go right back to the beginning, back to the early days. You were born in Detroit. What are your first memories of music?
Oh, that would have been my dad. My dad was a musician, so seeing him play on stage, I got my first instrument at 7, bongo drums, which I begged him for. He got them for me, and I got really good on them, and he let me come along and play at his gigs on a Sunday. My mother didn't know. She's up there listening now. He sometimes didn't take me to church like he was supposed to do to his gig. So my debauchery was started quite young.
What kind of music were your parents listening to, and what were your ears first turned to?
My dad played music from the 20s, 30s, 40s. I started becoming aware of music in the mid 50s. I was 5.5 when I saw Elvis Presley on TV, and I said, I'm going to do that. At 5.5, I said that. The normal stuff, everybody in the 60s, I was a 60s teenager, so that was what I listened to. And at 14, 1964, we started the band, and I started to play bass. Although I was already a trained pianist and percussionist, I was given the bass, and that was it for the rest of my life.
You say that, you discovered music at such an early age. 14, you formed a band. At any point, did that love of music go away growing up? Or as soon as you heard Elvis, you heard them rock and roll stars, you were out with your dad? Was it always music straight through school that were always going to be what Suzi Quatro did?
It was a bigger word than that. It was always about entertainment. And even on my first passport, all the girls, when we got our passports to go overseas in the band, they put musician, I put entertainer. So that's what I am. I am an all-arounder. Music, forgive the pun, is the rock on which I stand. But it's always been everything within this industry.
So you mentioned, obviously, Elvis there and all the great groups and bands of the 60s. As you were finding your feet and making a name for yourself, who would you say your big influences and heroes, as well as Elvis, were through the late 50s and 60s?
Well, as I was learning my craft, I was being weaned on Motown from Detroit, of course. So the bass lines are in my head forever. The backing vocals on the great 60s Motown records. Otis Redding, I was mad for him. I even called myself Suzi Soul for a while. So all my big show-stopping numbers were by him. And lyrically, I'm a Dylan nut. There's nobody better. And believe it or not, Billie Holiday, I was a big fan of Billie Holiday. I liked her phrasing. You take a little bit from everybody that you like. You just do. It soaks in. And of course, Elvis, we already said him.
I think it's a fair comment to say that you burst onto the worldwide entertainment, music, rock and roll scene in the earlier 70s, and especially through that glam rock period that was going on at the time. That glam rock thing, if you like, was very, very male dominated at the time. How did you find stepping into that world? Was it a challenge? Was it something you were determined to do, or did everyone take it quite well?
Everybody says I kicked the door down. I guess I did. All the women in my documentary, one after the other, big famous women telling me that I did that. I didn't know I was doing it. My answer to that is I kicked down the door because I didn't see the door. That's my nature. And I gave out that don't mess with me kind of vibe. So nobody ever did.
You became and you remained a worldwide superstar, rock and roll star, entertainer. At what point did you decide to make the UK your home from Detroit?
I was in the second wave of the Pleasure Seekers, which was now called Cradle. I had gone from being the complete front person with the bass to in the back because my little sister was joining, and we wanted to change the band around, started to write our own songs and get heavier. It was the festivals coming, we were a show band, so we had to change. And Mickey Most came to Detroit to record Jeff Beck at Motown. My brother found out he was there, and he came to the gig, Jeff Beck and Cozy Powell, and I got up and did just 2 songs. And after that, Mickey just put the finger like that. He said, come here. And he invited me to go to England and record with him. And the earlier that week, Elektra Records boss had seen the band, and he also had offered me a solo contract. He wanted to take me to New York and make me into the next Janis Joplin, which I'm not Janis Joplin. I don't want to be Janis Joplin. And she's wonderful, don't get me wrong. And then Mickey said, I'll make you the first Suzi Quatro. So I ended up coming here, and I ended up relocating here, basically.
But being from Detroit, such an amazing music scene over there, you came and made the UK your home. If you'd not moved to the UK, do you think you would have been the worldwide superstar that you are?
I have to say yes, because the need would still be there. The fire would still be there. The talent would still be there. So, yeah, I just would have found a different route. When I'm going to over there, I'm going over there. Ain't nobody going to stop me. That's where I'm going. I'm a very determined girl.
I love that. I absolutely love that. So you've had an amazing career, decades and decades of music, concerts, touring. On Friday, you released a brand new album called Face to Face with KT Tunstall. It's a collaboration you've done. How did it come about, this album that you've done with KT Tunstall?
Well, I was a fan, and I didn't know she was a fan. One of those things. We only met briefly at one concert, this big Elvis extravaganza. And then I was watching the rough cut of Suzi Q, my documentary, and there she was. So I kind of went, oh, she's a fan. So a mutual friend, if you've seen the footage for Shine a Light, which is fabulous, he got us together. We had a lunch. We talked. She said, I want to send you a riff. I'd like to write a song with you. So we did it remotely. I sent her back a riff. We did that remotely, and something was happening. It was obvious something was happening. So I said, come down to the house, stay over. We'll sit on the floor and we'll see what we can do. So she came over. She stayed 3 or 4 nights, and the process began. We just went like that. You can see it in the video. We really spark off each other. We're very similar. We have some differences, but we're very, very similar. We are cut from the same cloth. We really, really are.
I've seen them little clips of that video, and you can very much see that there's a connection there. Correct me if I'm wrong, not just in like a music thing, but in a friendship sense as well.
Yeah, we found each other. I guess we were looking for each other. We didn't know it, you know. It's a match made in heaven. I love her dearly. She loves me dearly. We write together easily. We trust each other. That's the main thing. We allowed ourselves to be vulnerable in front of each other, which is good. The only little difference that we had is I'm an in the fire girl. I will walk through the fire. That's me. And she will observe the fire. So I pulled her in and showed her how to burn. And she pulled me out and showed me how not to burn. So we shared that.
How would you describe this album? Because there'll be people that are listening to this that are fans of Suzi Quatro. There'll be people that are fans of KT Tunstall, and they might be wondering what sound comes out of this. For someone who hasn't heard the music yet, and we are going to play a track at the end of this, how would you describe this album?
It's something, it's hard to describe. We naturally, as artists, respecting each other, I leaned a little to her. She leaned a little to me, unconsciously. Nobody steered the ship, so we let the songs write themselves. It's something new. The fans are going to love it. There's something for everybody. It's very deep, very expose, but there's some fun stuff on there too. There's a couple of rock tracks on there. Everybody has commented on the depth of the songs, and everybody has commented on the blend of the voices. Every single person I have talked to, and I have to be honest, when I was with KT, when we did Breakfast TV a couple of weeks ago, I said, now tell me, did you know we were blending when we were recording? She said, no, I didn't either, because I guess we weren't listening for that. We actually were just making the album. It took everybody else to tell. Now I can hear it, but I wasn't aware. It's good that we weren't aware.
You recorded the album with KT Tunstall at Sun Records. I mean, Elvis, Jerry Lee Lewis, Howlin' Wolf, Roy Orbison, Carl Perkins, they've all recorded there. 2023, 60 years into your career, you're recording an album still at Sun Records.
I didn't record it at Sun, but to be on the label is quite amazing. After me saying Elvis has been on my shoulder my whole life, my swan song now is I'm now on the label. So that's just weird. We even have a t-shirt with the Sun logo. So Suzi Quatro and KT Tunstall, fantastic face to face. Yo, he's smiling down at me, Elvis. He's been with me my whole life.
You know what? For someone who's been in the music world for so long, the entertainment world, the pleasure and proudness that's coming out of you, you could see what an enjoyable process it was. And I've not heard the album in full yet. I've heard tracks off it, but honestly, just looking at you now, I can't wait to hear it, the love and joy that's come from it. Is there any chance of any tours together, any dates together doing this album?
Everybody keeps asking that. We would be stupid to not do something. So when that comes up, we will look at that as a possibility. Yeah, we should do something, absolutely. You know that this is the 50th year Can the Can is #1. And if you don't mind, I'd like to just say about the 5 shows I'm doing to celebrate that. So this is in November to celebrate Can the Can was #1 50 years ago. November 12th, Cardiff St. David's Hall. 13th, Brighton Dome. 15th, London Palladium. 16th, Wolverhampton, the Halls of the Civic. 18th, Manchester, Bridgewater Hall.
For people that are coming to, one of your gigs, the Manchester one, Bridgewater Hall, what can people expect? It's going to be a celebration of Can the Can. It's going to be, I'm guessing, all the old hits. Can we expect any new stuff in there?
You'll get everything. I'm doing my dream show since 2015, which is what I always wanted to, what I always was was working towards finally came to fruition in 2015. It's a 2-hour show with an interval, and you get all your favorite hits, but you get so much more. Favorite album tracks. You basically get music from 1973 to 2023. So there's something for everybody. I talk to you a little bit. I play the piano, I play the drums, what I was trained to do. It's just a real entertaining show, but you'll get everything you want and more, that I can promise you.
Have you played the Manchester Bridgewater Hall before?
I don't know if I did it on the Legends tour or not. I can't remember. I have a bad memory for places. I remember the dressing rooms, but I can't remember the names of the places.
It's a great venue. You'll absolutely love it. You really, really
Everybody
will.
tells me about that venue. Everybody I've talked to, they've all told me that it's a fantastic venue. Everybody I've said that to.
I absolutely love the passion, the love, and everything that you've still got about you. And, you can just see how much music and entertainment and everything you're doing, you still love. And it's brilliant, brilliant to see that. I've got to ask, you've got this tour at the end of the year. You've got this album out now with KT Tunstall, which is amazing. What are the plans for the future? What does the future hold for Suzi Quatro?
Well, right now we are planning on doing a Suzi and Friends album. So my son and I are busy writing because, my son produced Face to Face and my last 2 albums. He co-wrote with me and did that. So we're kind of assembling songs and seeing who we think would be a good person to do certain songs with me. So I got to put the feelers out and say, hey, hello, who wants to be on this album with me?
Is that something we can look forward to perhaps next year, or
probably at some point next year? Yeah, it'll take a bit of time. This has legs, this album. So and the label also has an option for another album from the 2 of us, and neither of us are against that.
You've got a brilliant year ahead. Face to Face, the Suzi Quatro album with KT Tunstall is out now. Do get it. The reviews for it are amazing. I'm going to play you a track off it in a minute. You've got this to, I'm sure, be involved with for the next few months. Then you've got your tour, as you mentioned, celebrating 50 years of Can the Can. Suzi, it's been a real pleasure and a privilege and an honor talking to the absolute queen of rock and roll. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much.